Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 293.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and I'm pleased to have Chase Bowman. Chase was episode number 10, and we're getting pretty close to episode 290. So, folks, we've grown, and Chase has grown right along with us. He's involved with Bound for Blood on the Hunt channel, and that's going to have some episodes coming up this winter. And he's also doing some work with Treezyn Camo and a couple other companies. But the main thing about the show is lessons learned from a big buck that he put down after a number of close encounters or no encounters. You'll know what I mean when you listen to the show. So hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're going to connect with a friend that was on really early on at the start of Whitetail Rendezvous show. He was one of the first 20 guys that were on the show, and now we're up to 292 shows. Hard to believe, but Chase Bowman with Bound for Blood. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Bruce. Glad to be here, man.
Well, I'm
Good
glad
to be back again.
Yeah, I'm glad we could reconnect. And in a warm-up, you had some interesting tales, and I think this is going to start the show off with you get some good stories about the hunts this fall. And so everybody out there is always up for a good story, so have at it.
Yeah, well, my season started off early in January. We actually spent 2 weeks out west. Me and my brother, we've tried to take a hunt together every year now. We went to Arizona and hunted a mountain lion out in the desert with dogs for a week. Didn't do any good. We rode down and spent a week in Texas and killed some hogs with my buddy Max Bishop. I got to take a nice I took a nice axis free range and then a free range black buck. It's really funny because I posted on Instagram at the time, or Facebook one, I can't really remember, but I'm having a great season so far. Can't wait to see what deer season brings. I started hog hunting a whole lot in North Carolina with Creekside Hunting Adventures. Really shot a couple nice hogs and was super excited for deer season just to see if my luck held out. I was on a great buck. I was on a great buck. I was hunting a 8-pointer that I thought would go 160s, maybe even touch the 170 mark. Thought maybe he would be a booner. 8. I didn't hunt him all bow season. I just didn't have really all the info that I needed because of as Bruce and I discussed before on the previous show. I don't do any preseason scouting. It's just my method. I don't like to get in there and mess my areas up. I'm not hunting huge tracts of land with nobody on them. I've got good land, but there is some pressure in surrounding farms, things like that. So I try and leave my land as sanctuary as much as possible. Go in first day and start hunting, the deer that day. No preseason stuff. But some pictures started showing up locally of this big, huge 8-pointer, and I decided, as bad as I wanted to hunt him, that I was going to wait. So second day of muzzleloader season, I decided it was going to be my day to go in on this deer. I actually carried a stand, a portable stand, I guess you would call it, as a lock-on instead of backpack strap. I don't do much with climbers anymore. Carried a set of climbing sticks, put material in them like rubberized stuff that you would put in dresser drawers, put that in between to keep them from rattling. Carried this thing probably a mile and a half, headed up in a bedding area, probably about 30-45 minutes after daylight. The buck stands up within 60 yards of me.
No.
And 60 yards, man. I took a shot and actually missed that deer. I went from, the highest to highest, seeing that I could hear the deer, the does on a shelf below me. It's been a big cutover. And I could hear the does waking up and bleating, and I heard him grunt. And, I didn't know it was him. I knew it was a deer because, a big deer, I'm sorry. Just because it's just a very deep grunt, and he didn't grunt much. With what I've experienced here in Virginia, your young bucks grunt their heads off, and your big bucks hardly ever grunt. He walked around, man, right in front of me, and I shot and missed.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
Yeah, it was definitely a kick myself moment because, usually with the muzzleloader, I'm just, deadly. I had a lot of shooting deer. Last year I killed a 130-inch 8-pointer, 225 yards with muzzleloader. And then to miss, this giant at 60 yards, and I hunted this deer. That was on Sunday. I hunted him Monday and Tuesday as well, just, all day sets in this veterinary. He never returned. Wednesday morning, as luck would have it, I went to my spot where I parked. There's two guys sitting there, and where I park at is a big open field, and I knew these guys were up to no good. One of the vehicles tore off as soon as I pulled in. The other one was still there. There was nobody in the vehicle. I went to where I parked, and seen the interior light of that vehicle come on, and it fired up. The guy left, and I actually chased this guy. Probably shouldn't tell this, but I chased this guy for like 3 miles before I ever called up to him, and we exchanged words in the driveway. But by then it was so late, in the morning, I couldn't get into that veterinary before the deer started moving. So I decided it rained the night before. It was a little bit windy. I said, well, I'm going to go walk on this piece of property. I hadn't been to it in years on this side of the river that I was on. I'd never actually been down in that part. I said, I'm going to walk that river bottom because I can actually get around and leave. It kind of rained. And, so I was walking in that, and it was like, 8:30. Not a time you want to be walking around, but, in the rut, kind of anything goes a little bit. I knew I could be quiet. I've seen a deer down below me. I could just see it tail, and it raised its head. I've seen horn. So I'm focused on this deer, and up the ridge just comes this big old wide buck, and we lock eyes, and he turns and spins and runs. So I just sat down. I ended up seeing 4 different bucks running the doe that morning. I said, well, I'm going to be back here tomorrow, or this evening. I left out at 12, went back and, got some warmer clothes. Because I was just prepared to walk. Didn't have enough. I couldn't make that evening hunt. I would have. I couldn't have made the all day hunt because I just didn't have the proper gear. Went back that evening. Was sitting there. It's in the night 8-pointer, and really I watched him too long. I tried to judge him too long. We were in big timber, pretty thick stuff, and I watched him too long. Took too long to judge him. Didn't shoot. So I left that evening, and after dark, and I kicked myself all night for not shooting that deer. And I said, well, tomorrow morning I'm going to go in there. I'm going to kill that deer. But I went back next morning. I cleared me a path down in there that night on the way out because I knew the leaves, it started drying out. I knew the next morning that there was going to be no getting in or quiet. So I went in that next morning, set the base of the same tree I set in the morning before, and it got daylight like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock rolled around, nothing. 8 o'clock, nothing. About 8:15, I looked up on top of the ridge, and I could just see the deer was actually so high above me that I could just see like the white of his belly as it's coming across off the ridge. And, I could tell from that it looks like a big deer. I knew it was probably going to be a buck, but I didn't know how big. So I got my, I didn't even try and glass him with binoculars because I knew it's going to be, if it's going to happen, it's going to be quick. I tried looking at him through the scope and come around a pine tree, turned his head, and I seen a big long main beam. That's all I could see. And I said, I'm going to shoot this deer as soon as he gets open. I found a little 6-inch opening. His shoulder got in it. I hesitated. I don't know how big he is. I said, well, it's got to be a good deer. You've seen that beam. So I shot. Deer just buckled right there. I shot him through both shoulders. It's only like an 80-yard shot, straight uphill. So, then the emotion set in, because I can't see the deer anymore. And I'm like, how big is he? I knew he was down right there. I just kind of collected my paint figure, put everything back. I started walking up the hill to it, and I was not at all really prepared, for what I was about to see. In Virginia, and anybody will tell you this, in Virginia, if a deer will go 120, he's a good deer. Most of our 3.5-year-olds are 120-inch deer. You'll kill some 130s, you'll kill some 140s. My brother's killed 167, but it's not common. Usually in Virginia, if you see 3 deer that'll make 120 inches a year, you've really done something. So anyway, I walk up to this buck, and I just start seeing mass. I mean, it was just I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Big old long time. So I called my brother. He was in bed. He worked all night. He lives about 45 minutes from me. I said, dude, I said, get dressed and come up here. He's like, why? I was like, you got to see this deer I killed. I was like, I'm not moving it. You know, call Dad. I was like, you guys meet up here at the farmer's house. Y'all bring the Kubota and come out here. And it still hadn't set in. I walked away from the deer. I went up to the top of the ridge and then out to the field, and I just sat there. I didn't want to move him. You know, I hadn't even touched this deer yet. And so we all got together there it took everybody about an hour and a half to get to me, you know, and I'm chomping at the bit. I want to get touch this deer, you know, and just look at it. And so we get down there, and as soon as I get close to this deer and get my hands on him, I recognize the deer. It was a deer that I filmed a 9-year-old boy, my little godson, missing this deer last year on me just across the river 150 yards from where I just killed him. That was the first time we'd ever seen that deer. I hung a stand in muzzleloader season last year, last day of muzzleloader. I hung a stand because I knew there was a giant in there, but I'd never seen him. I told myself, I said, I'm not going to hunt him until the first day of rifle. I'm sorry, it wasn't the last day of muzzleloader. It was the last day of last week. I said, I'm going to let it rest. I'm going to come back in first day of rifle. And I hung the stand right on the edge of the river. And I was prepared to kill this deer that morning. Well, I just knew. I said, I'm going to kill that giant there. And I'd actually told my dad that, just crazy talk, you know. So my godson called me that night and asked me to take him hunting the next morning. And, you know, I'd done killed 130 8. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's go, buddy. And the stand I hung was a single man lock on with a camera stand above it. But, you know, I wasn't putting a 9-year-old up in that. So we sat on the ground 60 yards from the stand. And that deer literally crossed the river 30 yards from that stand, came out in the field. And, you know, I mean, you know how kids do and how adults do. I mean, he just missed. You know, it just happened. First time we'd ever seen the deer. Second time we ever seen the deer is whenever I killed him. He grosses out at 155, 156-ish, you know, right around in there, green gross score. He's just an absolute giant, you know, 8-pointer, 12-inch tines, 12-inch G2s, 9-inch G3s, almost 6 inches around the bases. And for his G2 and main beam meat, you can't even get your hand around it. Just, you know, for a Virginia deer, he's a stud, you know. So it was really cool for me to put a buck down that I actually, you know, had some history with, and one that was so elusive. You know, he was a 6.5-year-old deer, and we've seen him twice in his life. It was just an awesome feeling, man.
Let's go back to the place where you pulled in your parking lot and 2 guys took off. Was that private land that you were hunting and they were jumping in, or what was going on there?
Well, what happens there is that is private land. Me, my father, and brother are the only people allowed to hunt that land. It's a field right on the side of the road, and people stop there all the time. I can sit in my stand and hear them. You know, my stand's 1,000 yards away, but I can hear them hit the gravel and come around through there. It's just a highway for poachers, man. They spotlight it. You know, they ride by and just shoot them off the road. You know, where we live here in Virginia and Carroll County is just, the poaching is just unreal at times. You know, our game wardens do their best, but there's only so much you can do. But yeah, I mean, they were definitely up to something, you know, to take off like that. And the guy, whenever I got caught up with him, you know, he was really nervous. But, you know, I didn't have anything on him. I couldn't prove anything, but, you know, he knows now that, you know, we take it pretty serious over there. So hopefully it's a problem that'll eventually, you know, die out.
Now, getting back to the buck, how much do you weigh? 250 or 300? Looks like a big body deer.
I would guess. No, I didn't weigh him, Bruce. I just never weigh my deer really. But if I had to guess, I'd say it's right around the 250 mark. You know, he was a big deer for Virginia, big body wise. We've killed a couple bigger bodies, but you know, he was one of the biggest body deer we ever killed.
Now, talk to me the terrain. Now, I'm hearing fields. I'm hearing a creek bottom. I'm hearing, you know, kind of land intersects. Tell me where he was cruising for that 6.5 years. Where was he living?
Okay, yeah, that's actually a really good question. Something that I like to talk about because, you know, I hunt terrain a whole lot. So what it is the side of the river that the young man missed him on. It's kind of like just a big hollow. You got 2 big crop fields down in a flat, and you got 2 cutovers that separate those fields. So there's a cutover on each side, and then you got the river that runs along the whole side of that property. You cross that river, and then the land starts pretty much straight back up. You got probably a 100-foot tall ridge. I mean, it's tall. And then you got fields on top, up on the top of that. You're talking from the river to that field's probably a 200-yard stretch. All right. And you cruise, if you going around that field, it's just, fingers kind of like off of a mountain, not quite as drastic, but, just fingers coming off. And you got a big holler down in there. The river bends back in almost a U-turn, goes back around that side. Then you hit a big tall stand of pines and then another cutover. And actually looking back now, what that deer was doing was he was running one cutover into the pine, running that ridge, middle of the ridge usually is where his, rub line was. So I'm thinking early season, he was running kind of midway of that ridge, not getting up near the field. He was coming in the river bottom and then crossing into the next cutover and probably coming out in the field, early morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, stuff like that, is what I believe. Now, do I know that for 100% sure? No, I don't. But that's what makes sense to me, and I think the reason he cruised top of that ridge is he was 20 yards below the edge of that field that's up top, and I think he was cruising that ridge, just scent checking that field rather than going up to where he could you could actually see out into the field. And I was just lucky enough to be there. If he'd have cruised the middle of the ridge, I'd have never killed that deer. He'd have walked right in my lap before I'd ever seen him. Same thing would have happened that day as what happened with the deer before. We'd have probably just locked eyes and he'd have been gone. But, that morning he cruised high and was scent checking that field, buddy, and that's what did it.
Isn't that interesting? You got a parcel of land and there's a buck 6.5 years old and you only saw him twice.
Yeah, I mean, it really is because, I spent a lot of time on that land during hunting season. That is one of my main spots. We've taken some good deer off of it throughout the years. Never nothing quite like him, but my dad took a really, really nice Templar one time and scored a high 130, netted high 130s, and he was only 2.5-year-old deer. So it's always held good deer, but they're very elusive because of the cutovers. You have to get lucky. They have to chase a doe out in the field, and that's the way we always hunted it, pretty much field hunting, which is, something that I don't like it because, to me, field hunting is just monotonous. It's boring. It's a good method. A lot of people kill a lot of deer. It's just not for me. But yeah, I always kind of wanted to go across the river up that ridge because we had permission, but, the thickness of it just kind of kept me out a little bit. And, hunting mid-ridge the way I was, your scent kind of hangs right there. And then, as the evening comes, your thermals get pushed down in the holler. So if the deer travel low, you're busted. It's just a hard place to hunt. And I'm glad I finally, decided to give it a shot. But it could have worked. It could have turned out bad, but, this time it turned out good.
Well, I guess it did. And he's got to have some good offspring there, and it's a matter of, keep fine-tuning, and
right.
and figuring it out. The best way to do that today is with the cameras and put them where, nobody else would put one, but you'd say, based on everything I know, I'm going to put a camera here. Might be some interesting stuff show up.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. Cameras, I'm not a big camera guy. Just because and it's more of me than anything else because when I got a camera in the woods, I can't stay out of them. I'm not the guy that can wait 2 or 3 weeks, man. I'm the guy that'll check them one day and check them the next. I think in that particular area where I killed that deer, I probably would have pushed him off because, between cutovers, you only had a 200-yard stretch to catch him in the clear, and he could have easily avoided that if he wanted to. I think cameras are a great tool if you know how to use them and if you have the patience to use them. And to be honest, I don't. I can't keep off those cameras. I get addicted to them, and I got to check them every day.
And that's one thing that you shouldn't do. Everybody who tells me and uses them, you just, you got to get them in there and get a sense of what you got during the summer. Then, get your sand set and everything like that. And maybe once, I've got a guy, he checks them midday because as a farmer, so they're used to the tractor. and he just uses the tractor, doesn't shut the tractor off, goes in, gets the card, flips the card out, and that's how he does it.
Right. Yeah, and that sounds like a great method to me, because, anybody that farms, can pretty much tell you, you really don't pay that much attention to tractors. So, yeah, I think that's actually a really smart way of going about it.
And, it works for him. And other people, they've got these Wi-Fi setups, but you better own the private land. People, you got to make sure people aren't going to come in, because that's an expensive setup.
Yes, exactly.
And then it comes right to your TV. I mean, one of my friends' cabins up in Wisconsin, he's got 10 cameras out, and every morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock, he goes, okay, what happened last night? I mean, that's how he decides where he's going to go. It's, he looks at the trends and who's running where and stuff like that. And right, wrong, and indifferent. The industry's changed so much. And let's switch up a little bit and talk just a little bit about Bound for Blood, TV show. And you kind of told me in the warm-up you're taking a little step back. So let's talk about where Chase Bowman is and what you're thinking about doing next in the outdoor industry.
Yeah, really where I'm at right now is just kind of, everybody has their turning points and, throughout life. And, the show is, it's really hard on me. I'm still, I'm a young guy working full time. I work 50 to 60 hours a week most of the time. So I just kind of took a step back, more or less just focusing more on hunting right now than the industry stuff. I'm still filming, still taking a lot of trips, hunting different species, just, things like that. And I'm thinking about, probably going back on air, maybe second quarter next year, third quarter, just kind of, more or less just took a little break and regrouped,
Hey, what's up with Treezyn Camo? I've heard that a lot of people have had Cobb Sanders on the show, and a couple of Matt Murphy and Mike Pierce and Tina Kane and a bunch of other people. What's going on with Treezyn?
Treezyn's just one of those new companies that, they're really going to do well. I think they built themselves a good platform. The clothing, for what it is, the price, if you look at some of the other big names in the, clothing industry and stuff like that, you can't afford it. The average guy, just can't afford it. And Treezyn's come out with this stuff. It's a brand new pattern. I think it's the best pattern that came out in a long time. It actually looks good, and I think it's pretty versatile. The clothing is just great quality, feels good. I'm wearing I wore the jacket the other morning at 17 degrees outside and had a sweater under it and was just completely comfortable. So I think it's a name that you're going to start hearing more and more of, as it gets bigger and bigger, and it will. I think it's just one of those companies that's going to explode.
Have you met Cobb or Tina Kane or Matt Murphy, or who you connected with?
No, I've been talking to John, I don't know, man, for over a year now. We haven't got to meet yet. We were scheduled to meet once, and while I was out towards Kentucky and things just didn't work out. So, we just kind of, our friendship just kind of developed over Facebook, and we started talking and decided, we could help each other out, and that's just kind of how it's went. Seems to be a really good guy, and everybody seems to like him, and I think he'll do well in the business.
Yeah, I sure hope to, and I'll do anything I can help that crew, because I just like the people. Everybody I met, I just, like yourself, I just enjoy hanging around talking about hunting whitetails, and they're a group of people that I sure hope their pattern does take off, and they can get a piece of the market, which both you and I know is huge. That's for sure. Well, what else is in store? You said you got some, you're thinking about changes coming up. What do you think's in store for you?
Well, one of the biggest changes for me is going to be, I'm trying to show some different things now, more than just the whitetail side. That's something that everybody's doing, and it's great, but, I want to show people other things. Last year I ran hog hunts, with knives and guns, and just different things like that. So that's going to be kind of a big change. I just booked a gator hunt, so I'm going to start showing some, just a little bit more out of the box stuff. Bound for Blood will still pretty much be the same as it always was. Would just be a little bit more change in species. It's going to kind of redo the show a little bit, but nothing too awful drastic.
Well, good. Hey, Chase, we're at the time of the show that you can give shout outs to whomever, and then we'll just wrap the show.
All right, I appreciate you having me on. I'd just like to give a big shout out to Treezyn, for helping me out. And, Mossberg, I'm doing doing some things with them now, and they've been a really big help. And thanks to everybody that's kind of kept me in this thing and kept watching and checking on me on Facebook and everything.
Well, we appreciate it, Chase. I can't wait to I'm not going to let 6, 8 months, 10 months go by. We'll keep in touch with you. And as I'm going to ATA. You going to go to ATA this year?
No, I probably won't. Working full time, I only get so much time off, and I try and schedule hunts during that time, so I probably won't make it.
All right. Well, I'm going to be there, and that's going to be my first blush with the whole industry, and I look forward to good things coming out of that. But on behalf of all the thousands, I can't say 100,000 yet. I get 9,000 people to go before I can say 100,000 listeners. That's something else. 100,000 anything's a lot.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just, it's a joy to stay in touch with you, and I want to do that and just follow your career, in the outdoor industry. So thanks so much for taking your time this evening to be a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
All right, Bruce, I really appreciate you having me and kind of following me, and I hope it continues. I've enjoyed it again, man.
Hey, folks, stay tuned for the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're going to head down to the tri-city, tri-county, tri-state area. We're talking about Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. And there's a lot of big bucks coming out there. And Ryan McNicholas is going to tell us how he hunts 3 different states every single year and how he takes youth out to enjoy the hunt.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.